There are three most common ways to find a manufacturer or supplier for the product that you're going to sell. The first one is Alibaba.com. And you can go to Alibaba.com and type in whatever you're looking to find a manufacturer for. And Alibaba allows you to find manufacturers and suppliers overseas, primarily in China, but in a lot of other countries as well. And when you hit enter, it'll give you a list of thousands of different suppliers and manufacturers for your product. For pretty much any product you can think of that could be manufactured overseas, all you have to do is type in what you're looking for, and this will give you a list. The second most common way to find a manufacturer, especially if you're looking to find a manufacturer in the United States, is to use thomasnet.com. And this is very similar to Alibaba, but it'll allow you to find manufacturers in the US. You can see here, if you type in T, it gives you a list of over 191 T suppliers. What you would do is contact every single one until you find a supplier that works for you. The third most common way to find a manufacturer is to go to Google and type in whatever you're looking to get a manufacturer for with the word manufacturer afterwards. For instance, my first passion product, which is a product that I've made over $1 million with, this is how I found a manufacturer. I went to Google, I typed in what I was looking to make, which was a type of nut butter, and then space manufacturer. And you can see here, there are hundreds of different people that can manufacture nut butter for you. And make sure to like this video because I'm going to show you how to use these three tools in depth so that you can find a manufacturer. And on top of that, I'm going to show you 4 other less common ways that you can also use to find a manufacturer if you're struggling to find a manufacturer or supplier for your product. And at the end of this video, I'm going to walk you step by step how I actually found a new manufacturer for a new product that I'm going to be launching with a student that's part of my Amazon FBA program in less than 1 month. And this is the third part of a series of videos that we're doing where we're documenting every step of starting an Amazon business. So make sure to subscribe because next week we're going to be talking about how we designed our product. And you want to stay till the end of this video because we're going to share every step of how we actually found that manufacturer, including some common mistakes that people make. But let me show you right now the first most common way that people find manufacturers or suppliers for their product. And that is to use the website like Alibaba.com. And as I mentioned, you're going to type into the search bar whatever you're looking to purchase. Then another secret is you're going to want to go down here and you're going to want to click Trade Assurance, and you're going to want to click Verified Supplier. And by clicking Trade Assurance, Alibaba will only show you companies that are enrolled in the Trade Assurance program. This means that when you pay one of these manufacturers for the product that you're going to be purchasing, Alibaba guarantees that you're actually going to get what you pay for. And the way they do this is they actually hold some of the money that the supplier is going to get. And if there's ever an issue, you can easily get a refund on whatever you purchased on this website. Verified Supplier, on the other hand, means that Alibaba has sent out a third-party inspector to actually go and verify that this manufacturing facility, this supplier, is actually a legitimate company, that they actually exist. And I know a lot of people are nervous about sending money overseas to these manufacturers, but if they have trade assurance and they're a verified supplier, there's nothing to be afraid of, because if there's ever an issue, Alibaba will give you your money back. Now, instead of looking right here, which right now we're seeing all these different types of products, that's not really what we really care about. What we really care about is clicking on this button right here called All Suppliers. And this will show us all the different suppliers. Now, I'm going to be using the word supplier and manufacturer somewhat interchangeably, but technically a supplier is someone that supplies you with a finished good, where a manufacturer is someone that actually is going to be manufacturing the product from scratch. And when you click on All Suppliers, you can see a list of every single T supplier that is listed on Alibaba. And you're going to go through this list and you're going to figure out who you want to contact to purchase your product. And you can click the Contact Us button. Some things to look for is you want to see how long they've been in business. For instance, this company's been in business for 5 years, this business for 8 years. You also want to see how big they are, and you can see the volume in sales that they're doing, as well as how big their staff is. You can also look at their rating and reviews. This is a 4.9 rating with over 200 reviews. This is probably a very reputable company. You can then click on the supplier and learn more about what they do. You can look at their quality control process, their production capacity, R&D capacity, and much more information. And when you're ready to start working with them, all you have to do is click Contact Supplier. And even if you're looking to buy something that's not exactly what they sell on Alibaba.com, Oftentimes they can customize the product for you. Now, for a product like tea, I don't want to get it manufactured overseas. I actually want to have this product manufactured in the United States. And this is what we're doing for Rocket Tea, which is the product that we're going to be launching in a little over a month. And if you want to get on the wait list for Rocket Tea so that you can be the first to know when I launch this product, I'll put a link to the wait list down below. I highly recommend joining the wait list because then you're going to get to see how I market the entire launch of my Amazon products. You're going to see every single email that I send out, and you can copy those emails for the next time that you launch an Amazon product. So click the link down below to get on the wait list for the Rocket Tea launch. And as mentioned with thomasnet.com, this is going to show you suppliers that are in the United States. And it's very similar to alibaba.com. You can see the location of where the manufacturer is. You can see what year they were founded and how many employees they have. And if you click on the manufacturer, you can see a lot more information than just that. Things such as their capabilities, their certifications, even diversity, and all kinds of different things. If you want to, you can even call the supplier or visit their website. Now, when working with US manufacturers, for the first round, it's fine to send out an email and just get a feel for if they can actually do the product that you're looking to do. But once you start getting a little bit more serious, I recommend giving these manufacturers a call. Because oftentimes, even if they can't help you, they might know someone else that can. And this is part of the way I found my first Amazon manufacturer is I called one manufacturer and they said, you know what, we can't help you, but I think Bob over at Bob's Nut Butter can help you. So don't be afraid to get on the phone and call manufacturers. Another way to find a manufacturer is to simply go to Google and you can type in whatever the product is you're looking for, space manufacturers, space private labelers, or even sometimes space suppliers. Again, start emailing them and getting on the phone. And you can see we have a list of a ton of different nut butter manufacturers. And if you're struggling to find a manufacturer, there are 4 other techniques that you can use to find a manufacturer. And as I mentioned, stick with me because I'm going to share exactly how we found a manufacturer for my new product. But here's the secret. You can actually use a tool in Jungle Scout to find who is the manufacturer for almost any product on Amazon. You'll just go to suppliers here and then to the supplier database. Click on the company tab and type in the company that you're trying to figure out who their manufacturer is. So if I type in yoga mat into Amazon, I see a bunch of different yoga mat companies. One of them is this Gaiam company right here. I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it into the Jungle Scout tool right here. And we're gonna click search. And you can see this company listed and you can see who their top suppliers are. So if you have competitors in your market and you wanna figure out who they're using as manufacturers, this is an absolutely amazing tool. And I do have the hookup with Jungle Scout. There's a link in the description down below as well as a discount. So if you are gonna sign up with Jungle Scout, I highly recommend using the discounted link in the description down below. But you can even, if you want to, search by ASIN. So instead of searching by company right here, we could take the ASIN number, which if we scroll down to the bottom, we can see the ASIN number and we can copy this and we can paste it in here. And you can find, like I said, the manufacturer for just about any product on Amazon. Now, this tool isn't always 100% accurate, but it's very surprising how often it is accurate. Another way I highly recommend to finding manufacturers is to type into Google whatever your product is, space conventions. Go to the website of the convention that is in your industry, and you can look at who are exhibiting. And you can either go to this convention yourself, walk around the convention and talk to everybody, or you can go to the list of people that are exhibiting at the convention. For instance, we see here, this is the 2023 exhibitor list, and there's a growing list right here. And you can contact each one of those people individually. Oftentimes at these kind of conventions, it's going to be suppliers and manufacturers. Now, I know a lot of people are not based in the United States. Maybe, for instance, if you're based in the UK or in Europe and you're looking for a manufacturer that's based in your home countries, you can use websites like europages.co.uk to find a manufacturer in the UK or in Europe. And it's very similar to the way that Alibaba works. You would just type in whatever you're looking for a manufacturer for, scroll around, and you can see, for instance, this manufacturer is based in France and they're verified by europages.com. You can click on their profile and you can navigate to find out more information about them. But if you're still struggling to find a manufacturer, my last piece of advice before I show you step by step how we actually found a manufacturer for our product is to hire somebody. And you can hire a sourcing agent. And this is one site, Makers Row, where you can hire a concierge service for about $1,000 and they are going to be an expert in the industry, and they're gonna help you to find a manufacturer. Now, Makers Row is a website that you can use to find manufacturers for on your own, and it's about $400 a year, or you can hire a concierge service. In addition to this website, you can just go to Google, type in whatever your product is, space agent, and they'll be able to help you to find a manufacturer. Now, if you're still struggling, you can always go to LinkedIn and find people that are in your industry, send them a message and ask them if you could pay them for their time. And now that you know the basics on how to actually find a manufacturer for your product, I'm gonna share with you step by step how Willem and I found a manufacturer for our new product that we're gonna be launching on Amazon in less than 1 month. And make sure to come back next week because we're gonna explain how we designed our product, including designing the logo, the branding, and the actual tea product itself. But now let's have Willem explain to us how he found a manufacturer for this product. And this is Willem. He is the one that actually found the manufacturer for Rocket Tea. How did you find the manufacturer?
So I emailed as many manufacturers as I could find all across the world. I copy pasted the same email template to all of them. Just, hey, I'm looking to kind of create this project. Could this be something that you and I could discuss? And I sent it to 50 to 60 different manufacturers, just copy pasting the email to all the different infos at or whatever email address I could find on the bottom of their websites. Sometimes I would fill out an online form if that's kind of what the website was steering me to do. I opened the website for every Google search I could find from like the first page to the 10th page of Google, opened them up in different tabs, and just went through each one to email all of them separately.
So there's some key things here. First off, he went to page 10 of Google, which a lot of people stop at the first page and like, I can't find a manufacturer. No, it's like keep going all the way down.
Right.
I assume did you have some kind of a list of who you had contacted?
Yep, I made a bit of a spreadsheet of who I had contacted, who I hadn't contacted. Yeah. But I also found that not everybody replied to me. I didn't get a reply to everybody. So the ones that didn't reply to me, I sort of wrote off as not paying enough attention to me anyways, and like I could have followed up with them, and in some cases I did if I really identified their business as something that looked like I wanted to work with. But if they didn't reply to me, I kind of didn't really want to work with them anyway, so I kind of just in my own inbox kind of started to filter out who was worth kind of following up with anyways.
And we'll share the exact email that you sent to everyone later in this video, but once you started contacting people, what did they respond to you? What did they say?
Well, a lot of people that replied to me regarding my high caffeine tea project did not want to touch it. They were really not that interested. They were like, we don't do that. We don't add anything unnatural to our teas, or we don't change our teas. Everyone was in the tea industry, it seemed to me that there was a lot of proud owners of these tea blending or these tea manufacturing places, and they're very like proud of where the tea comes from. They don't want to like mutilate their otherwise perfect blends of tea with my high caffeine tea kind of concept. So I got a lot of no's. I got a lot of people saying that they wouldn't do it, that they're not interested in doing it, that it was impossible to do it, that they didn't understand how it could be done. I actually, in my email, gave them links to the current high caffeine tea products that are out there, and I sort of was fishing for information of like, well, how did they do it? Like, they did it, and I still kind of got like, I'm not sure how they did that. I even had one guy sort of tell me that I wouldn't be surprised if they're lying about it.
Right.
Like maybe they didn't actually do it at all and they're just saying that they did because I don't understand how that could even happen.
A few things right here. So you had a lot of people that told you it's impossible, that this can't be done, because for anyone that doesn't know, Rocket Tea, this company, it's going to be the highest caffeine tea out there. And to do that, you have to add caffeine to it. So it's going to be 200 milligrams per cup of caffeine. And so a lot of people told you this is impossible. You want to talk about why they said it was impossible?
Yeah, well, there's no tea that exists that's 200 milligrams worth of caffeine in a serving. You know, there's green tea and black tea and then matcha, but like all that does not have 200 milligrams of caffeine. My tea required additional caffeine to be added to the tea leaves. And that is what nobody was sure how to do. Like no one had a process of how to do that. A lot of people were saying that that's not the kind of tea that we make. Yeah. So to do that, I basically had to somehow add caffeine powder to these dry tea leaves. Yeah. And to do that, I had to stick caffeine powder to these dry tea leaves, and no one knew how to do that.
A lot of people were telling you that you have to make the tea wet, and if you do that, it's going to ruin the tea. Yeah. And you told me that a lot of people were like upset at you, like you're ruining the integrity of tea, and like you don't know what you're talking about.
Yep.
And the reason I bring all this up is a lot of people, when you're trying to manufacture a unique product, they might tell you it's impossible they don't know what they're talking about.
Yep, sure. Well, I got on the phone with one tea manufacturer who was pretty much trying to steer me away from this project altogether. They're basically trying to talk me out of it, saying like the only way that this can be done is if we spray the tea leaves slightly with water, and by doing so, we're going to ruin the integrity of the otherwise dry, preserved loose leaf tea, and then sticking the caffeine powder onto that slightly wet tea leaf, we could run into an issue with like a rot or a mold or a problem with the tea leaf now being slightly wet. So he was like, this can't be done. That's the only way it could be done. And because we can't do that, therefore it can't be done.
So when all these people were telling you it can't be done, how did you feel?
Well, I was getting a little bit nervous because like I was really planning on this being my product and this being what I'm focusing on. And I already kind of started like a few other gears in motion to like help kind of support this product coming to fruition. Yeah. So when I was hearing no from all these manufacturers, I was starting to think like, okay, well, could I get my tea bag like submerged with caffeine powder? Like I was trying to think like if there's other ways to do this, or I was even thinking like, could I put a caffeine tablet into the tea bag that would dissolve? Like I was starting to think of like other options, but at the same time starting to get a little bit nervous that everybody was basically telling me like this wasn't going to happen, or that they weren't going to help me, or that this isn't really what tea was meant to be like anyways. Right. I was getting kind of just discouraging news. So I was getting a little nervous.
Yeah. I remember you telling me that you were kind of discouraged at one point during this entire process, but eventually you found one or two manufacturers that wanted to work with you. What was that process like? And what kind of questions did you ask to the manufacturers?
Yeah. So I finally started hearing back from one or two manufacturers. I was like, I can help you with this. These were specialty tea blenders, like people that would work with you on specialty teas. If I was to say I really wanted like a cinnamon and orange flavored tea, like they would help me blend that. Yeah. So this tea blender was fine with me adding caffeine to my tea using a proprietary process that he still hasn't even told me about. I asked him recently, because my tea is now being produced, I asked him if he could film my tea being produced so that I could use footage of my tea like going through the machine like as part of a video, and he told me no, because all their machines are like top secret. So so he's doing his thing. But questions that I asked him when he finally kind of presented himself as someone I could work with was, what would my minimum order quantity be? How long would this take to do? What tea we would use? He was asking me a lot of questions about like what kind of flavor I wanted. And I, of course, was involved in that process of making the tea taste good.
Next video that we do together, we'll talk about the process of actually creating the product, the logo, the branding, but keep going.
And I also want to know like what tea bags this could get put into. I wanted to do more of an environmentally friendly tea. So he actually had biodegradable tea bags that we're using with no string and no tag, so there's not excess waste. So I was just asking him like questions about how long it was going to take, what the minimum order quantity I could use is, and then the process of like putting that tea now into tea bags, because it seemed like it was such a process to kind of create that tea in the first place. I was worried that every step of the process was going to be a big thing, but it ultimately wasn't.
And one of the big issues I know that we faced and we talked about is, okay, well, so we have one manufacturer, can they do everything? And it turns out they can do most of it, but one thing that they can't do was the actual packaging that the tea bags go into. How did you find that person to make the actual packaging?
Right. So I was interested to know like what his scope of work could be. Like if he could be like a one-stop shop for like all of my needs. But it turned out that just since he's like a very niche down specialty tea blender, he just blends the tea. And then the tea just sits there in a warehouse and requires packaging to be shipped in from a different packaging manufacturer. And then they take that packaging and they fill the tea with it. So he gave me a recommendation to a packaging house that they use that's actually just here in the United States that has pretty low minimum order quantities. And even though I could have looked for packaging overseas that would have cost less, I went with his recommendation just to sort of keep the process moving along. And I'm using the packaging company that he recommended.
And at the beginning, a lot of times, even if you could save money by maybe going overseas or doing things like that, sometimes it makes more sense just to spend a little bit more money and make it easier. Now, obviously, certain products you still want to make overseas, but with this kind of a product, your most expensive costs were the tea itself and the manufacturing, which kind of needs to be done it doesn't need to be done in the US, but it's very helpful to
Yeah.
have it done in the US.
I think so, yeah. Because the tea is essentially being like somehow caffeine powder being added to that, and there's already kind of enough like warning label-ish things to worry about with having like so much caffeine in the tea, and like I felt more comfortable doing that in the United States as opposed to like somewhere else where I didn't quite know like what was going on and how much caffeine was really in it or where the caffeine came from. And like, I didn't want to go into like unsafe territory with my high caffeine tea. So it helped me feel more comfortable that it was out of Florida with someone that I could just call and speak with. And then in terms of the packaging, yeah, like I could have got the packaging done cheaper, but I have like a dedicated account manager who's talking to me about all of my graphic design issues and everything, and, you know, the colors and how things could bleed and all of that stuff that I've never done before was much easier for me to do with someone here in the United States.
And so just to keep in mind, some of the other questions that Willem mentioned is, what is the minimum order quantity? You always want to ask a manufacturer that. What was your minimum order quantity? Do you remember?
Well, for the tea bags itself, it was either 1,000 or 2,500, and there's a little bit of a price like discount if you go a little higher.
Yeah. Another question you always want to ask too is, what are all the costs? Because sometimes the manufacturer's like, yeah, it costs $5 per unit. Minimum order quantity is only 100 units. But they're not telling you about all the other costs. What other, I mean, we can save this for a future episode, but did you ask what other costs there would be and what other costs were there?
Yeah, so it did cost like a small amount to initially get the blend going, you know, for me to like hire him to create the blend. And then it cost a small amount for me to receive a sample of the tea from him.
Do you remember how much those were?
It was like maybe like $400 for him to like be hired by me to create the tea, and then to get a sample of the tea made, which was about like 20 servings of tea. I think that was like another like $100 or something.
And I always recommend getting a sample of your product before you go spend thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars on a manufacturing run. The sample allows you to see, is this actually a product that you like or that you want to sell?
Yeah.
What was it like when you got the sample? What did you think about it?
Well, the sample just came into like a package with loose leaf tea. It was not individual tea bags, and it smelled really great. Okay. It had a really nice smell to it. I was very excited about that. I could kind of see how it was dusted with caffeine powder, which was interesting. Yeah. And I brought samples actually to all the different coffee houses and tea shops in the town that I live in Montana. And I asked for their like more professional opinion of what they thought it tasted like, and they give me some notes. So I left samples with everybody, and they all emailed me back telling me that it tasted great. So it was encouraging, and I tried it, my family tried it, my friends tried it, and it tasted good and gave everyone like a nice, clean, smooth energy. So yeah, that was great.
And one of the biggest things when trying to find a manufacturer is just reaching out to those manufacturers. Now, I do recommend whenever you can, especially if you're dealing with US manufacturers, pick up the phone and give them a call. But if that seems a little too daunting, you can always just send them an email. And we promised that we'd share the actual email that Willem sent. Do you want to share that?
Yep, sure. So I wrote this, and I just literally copy and pasted it to every different email.
60 different manufacturers,
same
like
one after
message.
the other, one after the other. And the email just said, "Hello, I am creating a brand of tea that aims to have close to 200 milligrams of caffeine per tea bag or serving. The tea will have more caffeine than is natural. Additional caffeine will need to be infused to the loose leaf tea somehow. Do you have any process in which this can be done? A loose leaf tea product with 150 milligrams of caffeine, allegedly, for reference, is Zest Tea, which I gave a link for. Please let me know if this is something we can work on together, and if you have time for a call to discuss this."
What are your thoughts about sending that email versus calling people?
Well, I basically just like copy pasted this to one after the other. I had all the different tabs open, like for all the different like 1 through 10 Google search results. So as soon as I sent it, I closed a tab. As soon as I sent it, I closed another tab. And I kind of just did this as a sort of a passive way of hearing back from somebody, because I just figured like now I have this big net out there and they're going to get back in touch with me. But if there was a few companies that like really seemed like they would be perfect for what I needed, like their website was like exactly kind of aligned with what my mission was, then I would just call them.
Gotcha.
Just to see if I could like just speak with somebody, because it's always nice, like I've never done this before, so it's always nice to hear from somebody like why they think this can't be done, or what process is involved in this, or why it's going to cost a lot. Like this is where I learned that it's like the only way to do this was to get the tea wet and then like roll it in powder. Like that was not something that I learned like over email exchange. That was something I just learned on the phone.
And that's another big thing that you were telling me is as you were contacting these manufacturers, you were learning a lot.
Right.
So then the next time you talk to a manufacturer, you seemed a little bit more knowledgeable, like
Right.
a little bit more of an expert. Another thing that we didn't mention is that when you sent this email, you didn't use your regular random Gmail account. You actually set up a specific email for sending out this email for a number of different reasons. Want to talk about that?
Yep. So I just, like, since I was going to sort of like blast out this email to so many different people, I made a Gmail account that was called like Special Blend 2000. And I used that email to send out to all these different people. And in doing so, I got signed up for a lot of newsletters that I also kind of expected would happen. So a lot of these tea manufacturers now are like putting me on their tea blending newsletters. And I didn't want that on my personal email. Yeah. And I also just wanted it to be sort of more like an anonymous email kind of, because if they get an email from Special Blend, I could still give them a call as Willem, and it's sort of two different people. So
smart.
If I got information from somebody on email, I could use that information as Willem without them knowing that I'm actually kind of the same person.
Yeah. So that's smart. Another thing that I would do, it's not necessary, but if you have a domain name, let's say you have drinkrockettea.com, you can have Willem at drinkrockettea.com be where the email is coming from. That's like next level professional, but don't think that you need to do that. You can even just do a Gmail account that's just rocketea@gmail.com, and it seems professional, but I actually really like your idea of you could send this emails from multiple different accounts even, and maybe just make sure that the price is going to be the same, or like you said, get on the phone and be like, hey, is this thing you told me actually true? So that's a really smart idea.
Yeah. Yep. And it did seem a little bit more professional. My email Special Blend, whatever, at least kind of made it seem like I was in the industry somehow. Like it wasn't just like random person.
And if you want an even more in-depth free Amazon FBA course that teaches you all the steps starting your Amazon business, click on this playlist right here. It's a whole set of 6 hours of free videos. So check out that playlist, and I'll see you in the next video.